Hi again, Mark here from TalkingBass.net. This week we're going to have a look at how we can put some little chords into our playing to get some really funky sounds like this. If you've not been over to TalkingBass.net, then be sure to go check it out. You'll find over 100 different bass lessons on all kinds of different topics, all on the lesson map and all divided into different categories for ease of navigation. And there'll be the tab, the sheet music and the tracks, all available below each video. Just click on the download links. Also, if you subscribe for free, you'll gain access to the members area where you'll find a load of exclusive bass resources and content. So go check it out. So, first of all, let's just have a look through that basic riff and then I'll give you a brief analysis afterwards so that you can see what we're doing and how you can apply these little chords into your own playing and your own lines, okay? So, first of all, let's learn that the bass line without the chords in there, okay? So that's going to sound like this. Okay? So it's two chords in the chord progression, G7 to C7, okay? So we start on a G, 3rd fret of the E string, played once. Then we move to the G, 5th fret of the D string, played twice, so. And then we go to the F, 3rd fret of the D string, so. Okay, so in terms of the fingering, the usual fingering for this would be 1st finger for the G, 4th finger for the G octave there, and then the 1st finger for the 3rd fret. Okay, and you might see me sometimes playing it with one finger, just to give it that muted, funky vibe, okay? So, but either way, you can use whichever fingering you want because it's not a very sophisticated, not a very complicated or hard bass line to play. It gets a little trickier with the chords in there, but this first part, that's cool. The main thing is to just get the rhythm, just get that funky rhythm working. So, next up, move on to the C, 3rd fret of the A string. Then we play that twice, so. Then we move up to the C, 5th fret of the G string, twice. And then the B flat, 3rd fret of the G string. Okay, so all together. And again, same fingering as we used on the first one, 1st finger and 4th finger, that's all we need to use. So if we put those two together, we get this line, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so now we can add those little chords in there. So first of all, we'll just add one to the G. So that's going to sound like this. Okay. So we've got this little, okay. So we're just going to use the 1st and the 2nd finger for this. We're going to play the E and the B flat, which is the 14th fret of the D string and the 15th fret of the G string. So it's that little tritone interval there. So quite an evil sounding little interval there. And then when we've played that, we just slide it up 1 fret, so 1 half step. So both of them, we just take up from the 14th and the 15th fret up to the 15th and the 16th fret. So that's all we're doing, just sliding the whole thing up 1 fret. So the 1st finger goes up 1 fret and the 2nd finger goes up 1 fret, both together. Okay, simple as that. So when we add it to the G, the little bass line down there, very slowly, we get the following. Okay? So now let's add a chord to the C. Now we could use the same kind of effect that we used on the G, which would sound like this. So we could use that little tritone slide there, but we won't. We'll, just for a bit of diversity, we'll try something else. So we're going to play this. Okay, so it's a very popular little move that. You'll hear people doing that on little funky bass lines, putting them in there, sliding in, kind of slinky little things. So those two notes are exactly the same ones that we started with on the G. So we've got the E there, the 14th fret of the D string, and the B flat, the 15th fret of the G string. So again, that little tritone interval there. And what we're going to do is slide into that E, and then hold it, and then play the B flat just after, so we get this. And you can slide in from anywhere, really. I could slide in from a fret below, you know, for that kind of sound. I could slide in from halfway down the neck here, or I could slide from miles away down here. You know, anywhere really, anywhere that you feel comfortable with, or that, you know, that creates the effect you want to get. So we're moving in to the E and the B flat. Now, as a little tip, you can play it with normal finger picking, but to really get them to ring out, you can use the thumb and the first finger. So if I play, let's say, starting the slide there with the thumb, then the first finger's free to then play that B flat, and they just ring out. So I don't have any kind of rest stroke cutting them off. So just try and get used to that move. Okay, then once you've got that, we can add it to the bass line. So we get the following: 2, 3, 4. Okay, so let's start really, really slowly. Okay, so 2, 3, 4. Okay, again, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so then we just build up speed. 2, 3, 4. 2, 3, 4. Okay, so once we've got it up to speed, we can then add it to the G. So altogether we have the following. Okay, and you saw I used a variety of different slides there on the... So like I say, you can slide in from anywhere. Completely depends. I mean, sometimes you might want a big long, you know, just for the sound that gives you, or you might just want a more, you know, it's just got a different sound, whichever one you want to go for. So now let's have a look at what those little chords are and why they work over this bass line, and that way you know it's a lot easier for applying in your own bass lines. So the chord progression is G7 to C7, so we've got two dominant 7 chords. So to really understand what's going on here, we just need to learn a couple of voicings for those so we can play the actual chords. So if we look at a G7 chord, the chord that we're going to use is going to be this one. Okay, I'll put a little bit more tone on so we can... So we're going to be playing the G there, 15th fret of the E string, then and that's with the first finger. Then we play the F, 15th fret of the D string with the second finger. And then we play the B up there at the 16th fret of the G string with the third finger. So, okay, so that's the chord. So that's a very regular, very common G7 voicing, okay? Now the next one, for the C7, we're going to play this chord. And you can hear how these dominant 7 chords are really, really bluesy, really funky. You know, it's got that sound. So for this one, we're going to play the C, 15th fret of the A string. That's with the second finger. Then we're going to play the E, 14th fret of the D string with the first finger. Then we're going to play the B flat up at the top at the 15th fret of the G string with the third finger. So we have... Okay, so these chords and the bass line are all in the lesson material that you can download from TalkingBass.net, so just follow the info below. So we now have those two chords, G7 and and C7. So if we listen to that, you know, alongside the bass line there, so we've got the bass line. Here are the chords. Okay, so you can hear those chords there. So, you know, you don't have to get really, really good at chordal playing. You know, I know that when you first start with chords, it can be a bit of a, you know, a bit of a finger twister trying to get these things down. So don't worry about, you know, nailing these things completely, because as long as you can do those little, the little slides that we've been doing, you're fine. What we're really looking at is why those chords work. So, and these chords are the key to that. So, once you've nailed those chords, what you can see is that for the first chord that we used, if we were to remove the root notes from those chords above, that's what we're left with. We're left with those two little chords at the top. So if we play the G7 first, the chord, get rid of that G there on the E string, we're left with the F and the B there. So we've got that 15th fret of the D string and the 16th fret of the G string. So if we now play that with the first and second fingers, you can see that's the chord that we slid into at first, but we slid in with both notes. So we started on the 14th and the fret of the D string and the 15th fret of the G string, the E and the B, sorry, the B flat, and then slid them both up. So we were sliding into the G7. Okay, so it's those two notes, that's all we've done. We've just played that chord and taken that bottom note out. So if I was to not put the slide in, so if I just played, it's there. I could play the whole chord, which would sound like this. Okay, so that's the full chord. So we're just getting rid of the root notes. So if I get rid of the root notes, so there's the root note taken out of there, we're left with that chord. And then if we look at the C7, that chord, get rid of the C again, so this bottom note, the bottom note on the A string, and we're left with there the E and the B flat, which if we play with the first and second fingers, we've got that little chord. That's what we slid into. Oops. Okay, so so there's that chord. If I was to put the C in there, so we're just using those two chord voicings that I've already shown you. That's all we're using alongside these bass lines, but we've taken the root notes out. Okay, so it's really simple. If you can learn those two chords, then the whole thing will make sense, because you can see them. You can see those chords, those notes in there. Now, it's worth learning one other little nugget of information about these chords. That you'll have heard me refer to that little interval at the top as a tritone. So it's called a tritone because it's 3 tones or 3 whole steps. If you were to play, let's say, F, from an F there, up a whole step, up another whole step, and then up another whole step, we get to a B. So if we were to play the B down here, there it is. So that's F to B, or C to G flat, or C to F sharp. It's a tritone, okay? So that interval is in the dominant 7 chord, and it's what gives it the flavour, okay? It gives it it's a very distinctive interval. So it's a diminished fifth. So if I was to play C7, if I just take that tritone interval on its own, you can hear it's got that dark, evil sound, you know, very, very metal, you know. So we've got, you know, that wouldn't be out of place in a Cannibal Corpse tune, you know. Very evil. Now, if we put the C below it, you can hear we suddenly go into blues territory. So on its own, evil, put the C below it. Okay, so every dominant 7 chord has a tritone in there. So because of that tritone being the interval that really gives it a lot of that character, they're the perfect interval for exploiting on these dominant 7 chords. So when we play a G7 and then play the that tritone interval, it instantly gives us that sound, that bluesy, funky sound. We don't need to put the G in below it, it's already been specified in the bass line just before. You know, so it's there. On its own, like I say, if we hadn't already played the G, it'd be very evil, and people, you know, you don't class that as a, you know, a stereotypically funky sound, you know, but with the G, it is. So, yeah, that's a really important thing to realise with this, and the reason that those little chords at the top work so well in this context. So tritone intervals, you know, they might sound evil sometimes, but in a funky context, they're really good. So remember, you can just use those little tritone intervals whenever you see dominant 7 chords. Just remember that we're using the 3rd and the 7th of the chord. So please like this video if you've enjoyed it, and subscribe for updates on all the new releases. Also visit TalkingBass.net and subscribe for free to get all that exclusive content. Okay? See you later.